The stress in the Mercedes factory has been reaching an all-time high ahead of the 2023 season starting. No one wants to hear Lewis Hamilton ripping into his team on the radio at the first race of the season again. Least of all the factory team that had been hard at work all winter while he went globe-trotting with his famous friends. The car reveal went off without a hitch, but at the W14 shakedown things didn't go to plan. Luckily though, Lewis and George came away pleasantly surprised. Want to know what happened during the W14's first track run of the season? Then stick around for the rest of the video. Despite Lewis making his way to the podium on the season opener in Bahrain in 2022, the W13 was an almost undrivable car from day one. It was the most susceptible to porpoising due to a terrible rear suspension system and the exposed floor that was a side effect of the zero-pod design. For the 7-time world champion, it must have been a nightmare, but with Mercedes' track record of development, he will have been confident in his team fixing the problem in the coming races. You know the story by now, and that obviously never happened. So with the 2023 season just around the corner, Hamilton's nerves will be on edge. What if the car is just as bad as it was last year? That new contract still isn't signed. Could he be waiting to see how the car performs before committing to Mercedes long term? That question is for another day. Today, we're going to see how the car actually performed during a shakedown at Silverstone after the car launch. A shakedown usually occurs behind closed doors and is done to ensure two things. The first is, of course, to ensure that the driver is comfortable in the car, but the main reason that a team conducts a shakedown is to make sure that the car is mechanically sound and that all the various systems are in place. Despite them happening behind closed doors, there are normally media photos and videos and interviews to go with them, which was the case for Mercedes this year. Before the test, Lewis Hamilton said Mercedes were anxious to put the W14 on track for the first time to see how it behaves. Mercedes are aiming to bounce back, not literally, from a difficult 2022 season, where after 8 consecutive seasons of being world champions, they fell to 3rd in the constructors' standings, and Russell was their highest placed driver in the standings in 4th place. Hamilton admitted he was keen to see if the problem that led to his first winless season last year has been addressed. We're all anxious to get out there and see how it behaves, he said. And also to see where everybody else is. The other day, I kind of freaked myself out. There's almost 8 billion people in the world, and there's only 20 of us that get to do this. And there's only 2 of us that get to drive for this team. So we are so privileged beyond measure. This is the most exciting time, for sure, especially with all the difficulties we had last year. Unfortunately for Mercedes, hard work doesn't always mean success in Formula 1. Every team works hard to win. So during the running on Wednesday, when the engine struggled to start and then had problems misfiring, Lewis must have felt his heart drop. The engine had to be sent back to the factory for examination, and filming for the day was finished very early. The team tried their best to keep the issue quiet, but it's hard to hide anything from the Formula 1 media. Apparently, the problem was just due to the drive system being fitted incorrectly, but it was the worst possible start for a team that desperately wants to start the season on the front foot. Luckily for the team, the next day they managed to get the car on track for a full 100 kilometers of running, split between Hamilton and Russell in the wet. The wet conditions are significant because they require the car to be run at a higher ride height than during dry conditions. This happened to the team in 2022 and it completely hid the porpoising from the team. I'm sure they've managed to engineer out the problem to the best of their ability this season, but it is something worth bearing in mind. After the 100-kilometer shakedown, both drivers sat with the media to answer questions. Both drivers emphasized it had been a trouble-free day, with Russell saying, "The car ran smoothly," and Hamilton adding, "The day has been smooth. We got through a good program, and we've come away with some useful findings." You don't really think they would say anything else, did you? They gave little away about their initial feelings about a crucial car for Mercedes as it tries to regain championship challenging form following its 2022 blip. "We know pre-season testing in Bahrain will be the first real test of the car," said Russell. Nevertheless, it looks great out on circuit, and the feeling from within the car is so far so good. Hamilton was also very positive with his assessment of the day's driving. "It has been great to get up and running with the W14, said the 7-time Drivers' Champion, who's hunting that record 8th World Championship. "It is always a much anticipated moment for everyone at the factory that's been working so hard. I'm incredibly grateful for all the effort that's gone in. The day has been smooth, we got through a good program, and we've come away with some useful findings. I generally felt comfortable in the car and I'm excited to get going in Bahrain." The whole Mercedes launch had a side of humbleness to it, and you can feel that in these interviews as well. Neither driver is willing to commit to telling us how good the car might or might not be. The team's engineering director, Andrew Shovlin, is normally a pretty good source of honesty in the team, but he was equally reserved in his comments. Conditions weren't great for filming or running, but we completed the permitted 100 kilometers without any issues, and both drivers have been able to give us a good assessment of their first impressions of the car, he said. Bahrain will be very different to a cold, wet Silverstone, but everything seems to be working well. Bahrain should be hot and dry, the complete opposite of Silverstone at this time of year. It won't just be different because of the conditions though. There will also be full TV coverage and millions of fans, eager to see how their favourite team will perform. Hamilton has the biggest following in the sport, so Mercedes will be under more pressure than most to perform. I'm going to watch all 3 days of the testing, so don't worry if you miss anything. I'll have all the details for you before the season opener the following week. The good news for all you Mercedes fans who aren't able to watch the test, the early leaks for the team indicate that it could be a good 3 days for Mercedes. Apparently, Mercedes W14 will start the new season approximately 2 kilograms lighter than its predecessor, which could be worth as much as about 3/10 per lap. Mercedes going back to black was a huge decision for the team, but from a performance standpoint it makes perfect sense. If you look at all the cars revealed this season, they all have huge amounts of paint missing, exposing the black carbon fiber underneath. As good as that may look, it is a bit weird thinking that of the cars lining up on the grid this season, 5 of them are primarily black. The rest all have big black sections on them as well. It just feels weird having so many similar cars on the grid. Do you know what I mean? Toto Wolff explained the thinking behind the carbon look. We're on the weight limit of what we wanted to achieve, and obviously when we looked at all the weight savings, everybody needed to make a commitment. It is really a performance issue. But then, there is not tons of ways you can save on the paint, but it shows the intent of what we do, and the narrative is just right. Not only because of the historical context of how the silver arrows were created, but also because of our attempt in painting the car back 2 years ago is still very valid, so it all kind of makes sense. He did say at the car reveal last season that he wanted a silver car for historical reasons as well. Not that that really matters. With Mercedes down at the weight limit and a whole winter of development in the car, there are reasons to be optimistic for how they will perform. But will it be enough to get them back in championship contention? Obviously, they aren't the only team to have been working over the winter. Every mechanic in Formula 1 will have been putting in long hours to get the cars ready. The one worry I have for Mercedes is that they were still bringing upgrades to the 2022 car late on in the season. Ferrari stopped upgrading their 2022 car before the summer break, and Red Bull basically stopped a few races after, once they knew Ferrari had given up the fight. Mercedes' hunt for that race win last season, which they did get in the end, might actually be a huge detriment to them this season. Do you think the Silver Arrows will catch up to Red Bull and Ferrari this year? Or will they be suffering from the same problems as last season? Let us know your opinion in the comments, and on your way down, don't forget to subscribe in preparation for the 2023 season. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.